This is Nailing the Apex. I'm Tim Hauraney, joined by Mark Dailey from the Scuderia F1 pod. Mark, thanks for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it, man. How are things? It's been a busy day for you, eh?
It's been a busy day, but obviously not as good as you. You look like you got that whole vacation vibe going on.
Buddy, the dog hasn't been let off the leash in Vegas just yet, okay?
Okay. Fair enough.
I've been a good boy since I got here. Haven't had a sip of alcohol just yet. Haven't gambled yet either.
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. So I wonder how long you're going to be able to keep. You want to make a bet that that's going to end? So, what did I just do?
Buddy, I'm going to, let me tell you, it's going to be 50 on red before I leave here. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, you know what they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So I know better than to pry.
Oh man, it's, there's probably going to be a greasy night at some point or another, but this is, I'm in Vegas, covering the Grand Prix. So we got here early, Mark, and got to take a tour around the track and kind of see what's going on here with Formula One coming to town in just a few days' time, actually. Well, I mean, taping this on a Thursday, it'll air on a Thursday, and obviously next week is going to be the big week for F1 here in Las Vegas. But, I mean, it's pretty remarkable what they've done within a year, Mark. Like, it's quite spectacular. And I think just the amount of money that they've spent here has been astronomical. Like for those of you who've never been to Vegas, or have been to Vegas, they're essentially shutting down the entire city for this race.
Wow.
The race is literally happening, in, around, and through Las Vegas, the city itself.
That is absolutely amazing. And I was just kind of thinking, though, with all the so-called street circuits, and I'm using the inverted commas, street circuits now in general are miles, just so far removed from the street tracks of even 10, 15 years ago, when it was literally driving around a track. I mean, the way they transform cities now to hold a Formula One race is amazing. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what they've done here is quite special in that regard. I think when it comes down to it, it's like I'd said, a massive undertaking. But with this one, they're actually opening up the roads following sessions. Mm-hmm. So once you get to about 4 a.m., on a Friday or a Saturday, the roads open up and then they close again, later at night at 5 p.m. So there's still going to be traffic coming through and actually on the racetrack, which is different from a lot of the other circuits that they go to in terms of the street racing. This one, with Singapore, it's not really it's downtown in a way, but it's not downtown. This is literally downtown. This is this is right through their downtown streets. Mm-hmm. And so what they've had to do is people who want to go from parts of the circuit during on-track activity, they've built these massive tunnels underneath the roadways, so people can walk to different parts of the racetrack while there's a hot track going on. So it's been a huge undertaking, man. Huge. You see online all these videos of disaster stories with this event. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any yet, dude. Honestly, it looks like it's been run pretty well so far. I mean, I've only been here for going on my third day. So, but for the most part, I mean, the fountains at Bellagio are working. They're firing water up everywhere. And I know they had said that there were people complaining that, they had drained all the water out and there was no fountains, but I saw them last night.
So the water's coming from somewhere.
Yeah, it's coming from somewhere, man.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, though, the construction industry in North America is really, really well organized and really, really strong. So, I mean, it's a huge undertaking, like you say, but I have faith that just knowing, having worked in that industry for many years, that as long as the funding and the organization is there, these things will get done. It's just, so it's kind of funny when you see some of these pictures and videos and stuff like that I would, my assumption is just, based on my own personal experience, experience. That's like probably one or two very unfortunate small things that happened, that somebody just happened to have a phone with them, which is literally every second of the day nowadays, right? And it gets picked up. But it's exciting. But I was going to ask you, because I saw some interesting pictures where, you get like an air photo of downtown Las Vegas, and you see like where like the new track is going to be compared to the track that they had back there. What was it, the 80s or the 70s?
Yeah, 70s.
It's crazy. It looks like that old track was like a karting track. It's just like, how did they ever race around that back in the day? It's just like, I can't get my mind around it.
It's so bad, dude. I remember watching video from that event. Like, obviously I wasn't alive for that, but like I've seen like, race footage from that. And dude, I don't know how, like there was like hay bales and stuff. Like, I don't know how the hell they were managed to do that, because, when you see it now, there's Tech Pro barrier everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, like the lighting structure that they have set up here for the track, because obviously it's going to be at night. It runs for miles, like in miles, dude. The whole downtown is like all of these light structures built everywhere. It's a massive undertaking, and the amount of money I think that they've spent so far on the event, and it's pretty interesting. Like, F1 revenue is it's up, and according to an article that was written by motorsport.com, like in its third quarter, so like in F1's third quarter this year, the report claims that it's up from 2022. So in 2022, it was about 715 million. But then you fast forward to present day third quarter, it was 887 million. So it's an increase of about 24%.
Wow.
Yeah, and given the fact that like the Vegas price so far for like, their capital expenditure, it's about 280 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all kind of related to their pit building that they've built here. And it is massive. This pit building, Daily, it is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go through it on Tuesday, and then basically the track itself, what they've already kind of built, that it's not part of the city streets. So all of that included is about 280 million. And I think they expect to spend probably north of 400 million on the Vegas project.
Serious money.
Yeah, big time money. I don't think, and that's not like just for 1 year. That's throughout the next few years of this project. And I believe in the first 6 months they spent about 150 million on it. So
you're blowing my mind right now.
Pretty big deal for F1 to get this thing right.
Yeah. I got a question for you. Now that you've seen some of the facilities, have you had a chance to go around the track or parts of it, or is that still to come? Yeah,
I got to go around a few parts of it. And
your thoughts as a driver? Like, I'm dying to know what you'll get. Yeah.
I mean, it's a track. Right?
It's a track.
I mean, honestly, like, let's be honest here. It's not like a it's not like a spa, or like, it's not like a, I don't know if I can even compare it to Singapore, man. Like this, it's going to be a lot of 90-degree corners, a couple sweepers, long straightaways.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. Like, I mean, I think it's going to be difficult to pass heading into turn one. So coming off the last turn and start finish straightaway into turn 1, 2, 3. That complex is going to be, there's no passing getting done there. I don't think anyways. I mean, there may be, but like the run from the final turn to turn 1 is actually quite short. Even at the start of the Grand Prix, I think it could be quite difficult for any sort of passing to kind of get done, but I could be wrong. Daily.
Yeah, it'll be interesting once we see the cars like hit the road and start getting some laps in there, like what it's going to be like. I mean, it'll be pretty interesting because again, and this is a cool part about like F1 in the last number of years. It seems that we've had so many new tracks like on the calendar and off the calendar. Like, we had some temporary facilities or temporary tracks stepping up during COVID and stuff like that. It seems like we've been spoiled because we've just had so many opportunities to go to places that we don't really, get the opportunity to go to. I know the pandemic kind of forced them to reschedule and hurry and have I still can't believe we had like a 17 race season in 2020 when everything else was literally shut down. But it's pretty cool to see all these other things. And yeah, it's kind of, I guess at this point we can only speculate and kind of make best guesses how things will play out. But that you kind of like vocalize some of my fears, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's just I think with anything, and especially with this project, there's going to be some growing pains. Like there just will, and I think the first year could be a little challenging, and I think as they kind of keep doing it, it'll become easier for them to set up, take down, put into place, get people where they need to. I think it's a very ambitious project, and I think it's probably one of F1's most ambitious projects that they've ever done. When you look at like the activation that they've got going on around the racetrack itself throughout the weekend, it's massive. They have there's the Heineken House, they have so many different activation zones that are built in and around parts of the actual track itself for the fans. The hospitality stuff that they got going on here. They've got celebrity chefs just scattered out around the track making food.
Wow.
It is incredible, the amount of thought that went into off-track entertainment for this. It's something, man. On the sphere, the sphere is going to be involved in this somehow, I've been told. And I've seen some other things that I can't really talk about just yet, but I will be able to reveal some of that next week. But if you're here for the event, you will always have something to do. There is things happening 24 hours a day, for this event.
That's the thing, right? Vegas, I mean, it's literally the entertainment capital of the galaxy, at least. They know how to do put on entertainment. I mean, I just got the feeling that if this is one of the races that you go to, you would probably come home afterwards with the feeling I didn't get half the things done that I wanted to do while I was there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, big time. I was looking at some of the things, like I said, I can't reveal everything, but I was looking at some of the stuff and I was just I mean, even if there was 60 of me, there's just no way. There's just so much stuff. There's just so much, concerts it's mind blowing, dude. And it's going to be exciting to see how all this kind of unfolds. And we'll talk more about it through the podcast throughout next week and dive a little more deeper into things. But I wanted to get you on to talk a bit about the petition that Haas put out. And if you saw on my Twitter, I'd posted about it for the past few days. But the Haas petition, so the review of the United States Grand Prix, so that was rejected earlier today by the FIA stewards. I mean, the evidence that was submitted by the team just wasn't enough to activate the right to review. And a lot of this has to do with track limits at turn 6 at COTA. And I think the evidence that was provided by Haas, there were the onboards, there was some CCTV footage, but most notably, I think it was the onboards from Alex Albon, and then those cars following him. So that would have been Logan Sargent, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, and all committing alleged track limits at turn 6 at COTA. For the stewards, it just wasn't enough information, relevant and new evidence to open this thing back up. And I think, right there, there's an issue for me until I get into more of this. I don't know about you, but I kind of shocked the fact that, the US Grand Prix has been come and gone for, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, getting there.
And we're doing this right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've been to Austin, we've been to Mexico, we've been to Brazil, and now we're coming back to Vegas. So, I mean, it's quite a while ago, but I've been thinking about this the last couple of days. And any time that one of these things sort of comes up, and my question always is, does the team, regardless if it's Haas, because we all remember that thing that Red Bull did at Silverstone a couple of years ago where they got kind of like Alex Albon to sim like that crash between Lewis and Max kind of thing. It's just like, like does the team actually feel like they got like enough information, new information to overturn this? Or is it kind of like throw something to the wall, see what sticks? Or is it just basically, by getting it out there that they can maybe try and like instigate some change for the future? Like, because these after the fact protests, to me, like, I mean, I can totally understand why they would do it. And if I was in a similar position, I'd probably be in the, want to do the same thing. It's just, it's just like, what is the likelihood of getting like the result overturned, or are they just trying to change things for the future? That's always my big question.
I mean, obviously getting like the result overturned would have gotten Hülkenberg up into the points, and it would have been good for the team. Obviously now I believe, dead last in the constructor standings, would have propelled them a little bit further forward. But I agree with you in the fact that like, why, like, since we're doing this now, I mean, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, I get it on Haas's, point that they're fighting to get points. They're fighting to get higher up in the championship. They're fighting to get more money within the constructors. I get that. But at the same time, there has to be some sort of cutoff for these things moving forward, because, having to try and overturn results from a race that's 4 weeks old. Like, think if you went to the race. Like, think if you were at that race. Think if you were there, right? I mean, the fact that you're going to go to this thing, and then, like, given the fact that even Hamilton and Leclerc got disqualified, like 5 hours after the race had ended.
Oh, people were upset about that enough as it was for that, for sure. Like for the, the basically the shaving down of the plank, because they had like where, the car was, supposedly riding too low, whatever the actual cause was. But I mean, they'd shaved off too much of the under. Like, I mean, people were upset about that because it'd be so Bush League to do that now. It'd be a terrible optic thing, right? Like
100%.
Optics.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, like, you're not going to go back and like a hockey game, like you're not going to go back, the Golden Knights played here last night, 6 weeks from now, you're not going to go back and overturn those results.
Yeah, and in the background, you have Felipe Massa and his legal team saying, guys, hold my beer. Yeah. Let's talk about 2008, right?
100%. Like this is this is what we're talking about here. And I sometimes fear that F1 has really overregulated itself to the point where now we're getting into this. And so I think like that's when, and Liberty made a point about this when they first kind of came in and took over. It's kind of like a refresh of like a rules book. And and I agree with that. I think there should be, something done in that regard where fans aren't leaving at the end of the race and going to a bar, being with their friends, and then 5 hours later, having a good time, their driver just got on the podium, whatever it is, and then looking at their phone, being like, wait, what? We just got, so-and-so just got disqualified? Like, what? Why? Right?
Yeah. I know. It just seems, I don't know. It is, like I say, I can understand like the team's frustration, why they would launch like an appeal to do that. For sure. It's just like, and I feel that even if they had like a legitimate case to do it, it kind of, to me, it would set like a bad example, like a bad precedent. Then it would be like, are we going to see this like every race? It's just like, I don't know. It gets into kind of like tricky ground for me. It's just like I understand like the whole concept of sporting fairness and somebody gaining an advantage, but it's just like if they're not caught like immediately by the stewards and given like a 5-second penalty or something like that, like during the race, is like what sort of recourse do they have? Like what makes sense? Because like you say, when people are sitting around celebrating, or you wake up the next morning and you start doom scrolling through your phone, and then you see that Lewis or Charles or Max or Sergio, whoever won that race, all of a sudden didn't win that race because of, basically what becomes a technicality. It's just like, like how, it's an interesting discussion to have, is like how much do you want to like stay strict by the rules and things. It's just, and that's why it's difficult, because like if something happens like during the course of a basketball game or a football game or a baseball game or something, like it's they're fast moving sports. but they're not moving as fast as Formula One.
Yeah, true.
So, it's like you can get like an in-game review and you can review like what happened on a previous play or whatever. It's just that there's a lot more going on because we see it all the time. It's just like, incident notice, or will be investigated after the session, or is being investigated by the stewards. It's just like, we don't get like, personally, I feel like if we don't see that notification that the stewards are looking at it like right then and there, it's just like when is the appropriate time to look at it? Because there's so much data that these people need to look at to make a call. And it just, and I know it's difficult to do it on the fly, but it's just like where's the appropriate line in the sand as to like, okay, well, now you're a little bit out of luck. It's that window is closed. Is it right when the checkered flag is waved? Is there like a 2-hour time limit? Is there like an in-depth? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this one, Tim.
Yeah, I think sometimes I kind of look at some of the situations where I think the FIA may need more personnel in certain spots. Like maybe I think potentially the plank, that probably could have been a discussion that could have happened faster, could have been moved along a lot quicker. And I think at the same time, the FIA at the end of this thing with Haas, they did acknowledge that they had seen some potential breaches, but they said, quote, strongly recommended to all concerned the solution to prevent further reoccurrences of this widespread problem be rapidly deployed. But that's like a separate thing from all of the other sort of things that we talk about. I mean, this one obviously for track limits, and so we've talked about track limits on this pod a number of different times, and we've given out different ideas on like how we would see track limits being redone. But this is a conversation that we've had now for a few years, and it's kind of like, why hasn't there been more urgency to try and come up with more solutions, different solutions in a faster manner?
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be become like almost like an evergreen conversation. It seems like it pops up over and over again. And as you correctly like state, it's been around for a while. This is not like, oh, hey, track limits. Well, I've never heard of this thing before. It's just like, if you've been around watching F1 for a while, then you're well aware of this this conversation. And it just seems strange. Like I know it's an incredibly complex sport, and there's so much happening all the time. But when it's like this one thing that comes up over and over again, it's just like you say, where's the urgency? Is like, maybe they should put some spike belts out there so they puncture somebody's tires, or I don't know, maybe they're like additional cameras or something. I don't know what the answer is. As long as they don't talk about like, what was it, putting the sprinklers on or something like that. That was one of the weird ones for the qualified things. But what I'm saying, I being a little bit silly here, but it's just like, there's got to be some way if they decide, okay, turn 6, turn 12, turn 1, wherever it is, if they make that call that they're going to be super strict on those track limits for that weekend. Like, is it just a statement? Like, how are they going to monitor this? Do they still only have the same television feeds and in-car cameras and things like that? Do they need to set up additional? I don't know. It's just I start to get frustrated because it's this thing. It pops up over and over and over again. It's like, guys, you got to get your act together, figure something out. There's smart people involved with this sport. You should be able to come up with some sort of solution that works for everyone. Yeah,
100%. And I think like now that there's like so many more eyeballs on the sport, you kind of you as a person who's been involved in the sport for just so long, when I look at it, I'm just kind of like facepalm, like, oh my God, like, we don't look good right now. And it's like, kind of gotta, I gotta figure this part of the sport out. So it can act and look a little more like a sport in that regard. So there are some issues for sure. And like Dailey, I totally agree with you. Like there are so many smart people who work within the sport that they can at least figure something out. Like, put down some gravel runoff, and then if you want the safety thing, do your gravel bit, then have your cement runoff. Like, just do it. Like, I mean, look at the exit of turn 9, 10. I think it's the exit of turn 11 or 12 in Spain. It's gravel. Like, and if you go over it, like. if you go over it, like you slow down, like it's a clear deterrent, and then there's like your runoff, and then there's the wall, but it's right there and it works. Like that works. And so like there are other ideas and things that could be done. And then people's like, well, MotoGP races there, and like you can't necessarily put gravel strips down wherever. I'm like, then just bring it in for the weekend and clear the stuff out. Like it's not, come on, give me a break. Like you're telling me that you can't have parts of gravel runoff like put down just for one race and then remove it. Like, come on, like we can definitely do that. That is definitely possible to do. And so there are solutions out there. And I think like, you know, the stewards sounding frustrated by this thing as well, you know, want something done or a better solution to come up ASAP. And hopefully this is what kind of tips that over the edge, hopefully. I mean, I think the FIA is sort of like their remote operations center that they come up with daily in Geneva. Like, I think that's helped with speeding things up in terms of that track limits, penalties thing.
Mm-hmm. You know, what I find kind of like a little bit weird as well is like, since this is such a known issue that happens so often, it's not like we go 6 or 8 months or a year or 2 years when we have to. It seems like it's either every race or every other race, every couple of races at the very most. So it's like, you know, is there not some sort of way to almost predict beforehand? Because sometimes I feel like, and not in all cases, but I feel like as many cases as they're going to be prepared to say we're going to be enforcing track limits at these corners, it also seems sometimes that when we get to a weekend, that they're also kind of like playing catch up a little bit. So, you know, I guess that just maybe speaks to a little bit that the way that the cars evolve, you know, year over year, and the way that the drivers are just kind of pushing things. But I guess it's sometimes that they just, some of these instances, some of the corners at some of the different tracks, like it just becomes a thing once they get there. But you know, we're in a sport where there's so much that's kind of like thrown into simulation and modeling and stuff like that. You would think that there would be some way to kind of predict, okay, well, this is where we saw track limits before in in past events we've had here, past Grand Prix weekends. What about, you know, this year, like in what we've seen over the course of the year, the way the cars evolve? I kind of go back because, you know, like this is a sport full of brilliant nerds, which I'm not one of, and I'm jealous about it, but I'll try and hide my jealousy. But you know what I mean? Like, I go back to the fact that, you know, like there's so many brilliant people working in Formula One, and I just I don't know. Maybe it just hasn't been enough of a priority, but the longer it kind of persists, it makes them look bad, like toward not just towards new fans, but even like people like you and I that have been following the sport for years. They're like, guys, what the heck's going on here? Come on, get it together. Like, this is just silly now. Oh man.
Want to talk about the new Disney Plus and Hulu, I guess I should say, because it'll be on Hulu down in the States. Documentary, Brawn, the Impossible F1 story. I've seen some reviews for it already out there, and it sounds like it's pretty good, man. Sounds like they've done a good job with this thing.
I'm excited to watch it because that is one of those like magical seasons. And when F1 TV Pro started like populating the archives with like past seasons, you know, the last couple of years, I went back and watched like 3 or 4 races of that 2009 season. And man, it was awesome. Like, you know, time obviously kind of, you know, things, you know, well, memory kind of goes when you get a little bit older, I suppose. You know, it's just like, it was funny, but I guess the point is like when I went back and watched those 3 or 4 races of that 2009 season, like all these years later, it was as good now as it was watching it back in the day. And I'm so excited to watch this new series coming out. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it for, you know, a lot of our viewers and listeners that are new to Formula One, or you don't know about the Braun GP story from 2009 that Mark had just referenced there, but it's an incredible season, sort of one the likes we've never seen before, and I kind of wish that like we got more of those seasons after that.
Yeah, right.
Like, I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now. Like, just how incredible that entire championship run was, and especially the likes of, you know, Ross Brawn getting involved, and how he was able to, you know, pick up the pieces once Honda decided to, you know, move on from Formula One. And I just think it feels like they've done the right thing by sort of turning this into a bit of a docuseries, and I think Keanu Reeves does a great job of kind of, basically connecting the entire story together. And I think better doing it that way than making a movie out of it. I kind of feel like when it comes to F1, I think that's Senna was the perfect starter for all of it. Was like F1 has so much video footage. They film everything. There are cameras and there's audio. There's going all the time in the paddock. I think like when you break it all down, you can tell like the entire story, a great story, by just using real things instead of having to go to Hollywood and manufacture a story and all that kind of stuff. And look, I get it when it comes to blowing something up and turning it into like a full-length feature film, but I think they've done the right thing by turning this into this Disney Plus sort of documentary.
Yeah, things like that are cool, right? I mean, you kind of like go back. I mean, who are like the masters, or one of the ones that do it really good is NFL Films, right? Because they do the same thing. They film everything, so they got decades of footage. And then again, like there was that series that came out on Netflix a couple of years ago, the Last Dance. That all that footage they shot around the Chicago Bulls, and that was so cool too, because that was like a time machine. Like I literally felt like I was back in the 90s watching all watching all this footage, like with like Jordan and Pippen and Rodman, and kind of like reliving all these moments that it's just like, wow. So when I heard that they had all this stuff here for Braun, I was really excited. And it's funny because like when you were talking there, I had to just pick up my phone and just to bring up a picture of that car. Was that not one of the like most beautiful cars? I mean, I mean, and it was so understated too, because like you say, it was kind of like born out of the leftovers of that Honda F1 program, and there was virtually no sponsorship on it. It was mostly white with like a little sort of black sort of like accents on it, and like that Volt yellow wheels, some accents. It was just a and like just the line to the car, it just looked like a winner. It was just gorgeous, and it was just like I still remember like watching that first race and like those first couple of races like way back in the day. It was just like, what am I watching here? Is this for real? Is this just like kind of like lightning in a bottle? Is this something that's going to like disappear after a couple of races, or is this going to go all season? And it became one of the like most memorable seasons. It'll be like one of those iconic seasons that people that were watching and following F1 back in the day, you'll never forget that season. So I'm looking forward to jump into like Keanu Reeves' time machine and watch it. I can't wait.
It's going to be great, man. We're going to do a review for it on this pod as well. And so, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm going to share my screen here with you. We're going to take a look at some images that Ferrari put out earlier today. This is on their social media channels. This is on Twitter. And what do you think here, Dailey? I mean, this is a livery for the Vegas Grand Prix, buddy. What do you think? And so this is a throwback back to sort of similar what the car looked like back in the old, I guess it would be the 70s at the Las Vegas Grand Prix when they were here the last time. What do you think?
I think it looks gorgeous. Like I love some like these retro looks. Like they did at Mugello a couple of years ago for like, was it the 1000 Grand Prix or whatever it was?
Yeah,
like that really really dark scarlet, almost like a blood red. It looked amazing. And those mid 70s car, like was it the Ferrari 312T, like Niki Lauda's car?
Yep.
That is like, if I had unlimited money in the world, like if I could buy anything I wanted, like I would buy that Ferrari because I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. Yep. So I love that kind of like any of that retro 70s styling. I think this car is absolutely, I think it's amazing. Yeah. It's just, it looks so good. Yeah. It looks good. Hopefully it drives as good, performs as good as it looks.
I mean, it could. I mean, the temperatures here are scary cold. Like in the,
really?
Last night when we went out for dinner, it was freezing, dude. Like freezing. Like it was like Canada, like in December cold. Like it was cold, man. And so, the tire thing, obviously is going to be a concern. Pirelli obviously bringing their softest compounds to this race so they can get some heat into them. But Yeah, it's cold here. I think we're going to see, I mean, obviously you're going to see Verstappen at the front probably most likely, but like outside of him, it's going to be a crapshoot on who's going to be quick here, simply because of like which teams are going to be good at getting heat into the tire and getting them working properly. Like, really interested to see how all this goes down with the tires at this race next weekend. But I really like this from Ferrari. I love that they did this. I'm liking a lot of the things I've seen so far. Like Verstappen had a helmet thing that he came out with on Thursday, and it looks incredible too. I'm really juiced up to see what else we've got coming down the pipeline. But that this Ferrari thing is a very strong Kickstarter to the entire thing. Daily, you're really like it a lot too, buddy. Thanks very much for coming on and doing this. Really appreciate it. Let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on.
Yeah, so you can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, all those good places. We're the Scuderia F1 Podcast, and you can find us on X at Scuderia F1 Pod, and we usually drop a couple of shows a week. I know that my partner, Mark Hamilton, he's got something in the works. He gave me the night off, so I don't know. I've been fired from the podcast I created, or if I've been replaced. I've been canceled by my partner here, but we'll see. Usually he's got something nice. So all I know is I can watch football tonight, so I'm a happy guy. So there you go. But love to it. I always enjoy coming on and talking F1 with you, buddy.
Hey, nothing wrong with football, buddy. I got to take a tour of the Raiders. Man, Las Vegas Raiders Stadium, dude. But I got like an in-depth tour. Like I got to go into like the locker room. Like Jimmy Garoppolo's stuff is like right in front. I mean, it is Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever. But I'm a 49ers fan, so like,
dude, I never knew that. I'm a 49ers fan too. Hey, we go. So I'm with my people here. This is awesome.
I was a big Joe Montana guy. I love Joe Montana. He was like a hero to me when I was a kid. But it was crazy, man. Like to see the infrastructure, to see like what they've built here with that stadium, and everything that the players have, like even I got to see the ice baths. I got to see like where the players come to get like their rehab done. They have a giant X-ray machine room there. They've got everything. Got to go on the field. It was AstroTurf, but they actually have grass here that they roll out. So what they do is it's a 20-hour process, man, and they take apart all of this AstroTurf. They get it out of here, and then they bring in the grass for the game just before the game starts. And so they get it all laid out, prepared, watered down, all that kind of good stuff. And
amazing.
It's a remarkable process, dude. It was really cool. It's a great experience. I posted some of that stuff on my Twitter page. I'm going to create a story about it on my Instagram next week. So yeah, you can go over there and check that out. But thanks again, Daly, for taking the time to do this.
Thanks,
really
buddy.
Appreciate it. You guys have been listening and watching Nailing the Apex. If you want more Nailing the Apex, please head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, write a review, give us a rating. Helps us grow the show a lot. You can watch past episodes on YouTube as well. You can follow me on social media at Tim Hauraney. We'll have more from the Las Vegas Grand Prix next week. So we'll talk to y'all later.